Maria Santissima, premurosa e tenera nel soccorrere i suoi figli che si trovano nel dolore, lo sostenga in questo momento di prova e di sofferenza. La parola di Dio e la preghiera raccoglieranno ed esprimeranno tutte le nostre parole e le esprimono con pienezza. Ci aiuteranno a sentirci in comunione tra noi, con il Santo Padre, con tutta la Chiesa, in particolare con le chiese in Italia, che in questi giorni prossimi si ritroveranno in tanti modi sempre nella dolce compagnia di Maria per intercedere per la guarigione del Papa. Sappiamo anche quanti si uniscono a noi, tanti nella amicizia hanno affidato a noi la preghiera, quanti attestati di riconoscenza e di stima che presentiamo tutti al Signore perché doni protezione e renda forte nella fede il Papa Francesco. Preghiamo. O Dio, che in Maria, madre del tuo Figlio, hai posto il segno della nostra difesa e del nostro aiuto, concedi a Papa Francesco di godere la salute del corpo e dello spirito, perché continui ad essere per la Chiesa testimone del tuo Vangelo di misericordia, a presiederla nella comunione.
Ricolma di grazia la tua Chiesa.
Ascoltaci, Signore.
Dona salute a Papa Francesco.
Ascoltaci, Signore.
Estendi il dono della pace a tutti i popoli.
Ascoltaci, Signore.
Rendi tutti i defunti partecipi della Pasqua eterna.
E poi dopo fra un po' lo...
Perdão dos nossos pecados, pelo mundo inteiro, pela sua dolorosa paixão, tende misericórdia de nós e do mundo inteiro. Deus Santo, Deus forte, Deus imortal.
Hoy también nosotros venimos por el Papa Francisco. Sabemos que si bien la situación de su salud es crítica, no es fatal. Sabemos que su salud, como toda salud de una persona mayor, y aún también en ciertos casos de cualquiera.
Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks, I'm Zakka Jacob. Over the last 1 week, US President Donald Trump has been raising sharp questions over an alleged $21 million USAID contribution that went to India for allegedly increasing voter turnout. Time and time again, at least on 4 different occasions, on 4 different days, Donald Trump has made this a big talking point. And that has triggered a big political clash here back home. Today there was a new twist that came to the fore. A finance ministry report which has reignited the debate between the Congress and the BJP. We are nowhere closer to knowing where that $21 million actually led to. Who were the actual beneficiaries of that $21 million, if at all that money has come from the United States, from USAID to India, as has been claimed first by Elon Musk in Dodge, and then subsequently, as has been claimed by President Donald Trump of the US, at least on 4 separate occasions over 4 days. Now, some media reports have investigated and looked at this $21 million, and they have found that no monies to the tune of $21 million has come from the United States to India. And some have said that this 21 million actually went to Bangladesh and not to India. So is it a case of Trump getting confused between Dhaka and Delhi? But be that as it may, here's what both Congress and BJP are saying on the back of this latest Finance Ministry report that has been put out, and that again is leading to political mudslinging between both sides. Now, the Congress has shared this annual report on Twitter by the Finance Ministry for the financial year 23-24. They claim that 7 projects worth a total budget of $750 million was implemented by USAID in partnership with the Government of India and various other NGOs for the current financial year, the latest financial year, which is 23-24, that they have data for. Of which, of this $750 million worth of projects, $97 million was actually transferred from USAID to various NGOs who are operating in India, NGOs that are associated with, that do work for example, in the health space, or in the environmental space, or in the technology space. Just minutes after this was tweeted out by the Congress's Jairam Ramesh, the BJP then shared parts of that very same report by the Ministry of Finance, saying that it was uploaded in July of 2024. The BJP claimed that this report traces the origins of much of this amount all the way back to 2010-11. And the BJP also goes on to claim that even in 2014-15, before the BJP came to power, the amount of money that was given by USAID to government directly, forget about NGOs, was in excess of $200 million. The BJP claimed that up until September 2013, the total assistance extended to India by USAID was approximately $15.8 billion US, and that it was during the 2010-2011 period that USAID signed as many as 6 bilateral agreements with the Government of India. Now, the BJP's contention is, after Mr. Modi's government came to power, and particularly after 2015, the government-to-government exchange of money or money flow has come down drastically. But yes, there is still 200 million plus that has come from USAID to various NGOs. But the moot point is, where is this $21 million that Trump and Musk have been alleging was diverted to India for quote-unquote voter turnout? But first, let's listen in to what the External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar also said about this contentious amount.
Some information has been put out there by the Trump administration people, and obviously that is concerning. It would suggest that there are activities whose which has a certain objective out here to push a narrative or a viewpoint. I think as a government we are looking into it, because such organizations have an obligation to report. And my sense is, the facts will come out.
All right, so here's what the latest annual report of the Finance Ministry has disclosed. The report says that the US agency, which is USAID, meant for development funding around the world, was taking part in 7 projects worth $750 million in the financial year that closed in March 2024. The report also says that for that financial year, 23-24, there was a total outflow of money from USAID to various NGOs, various sectors here in India, to the tune of almost $100 million. It further outlined that the funds were used for projects that were focused on agriculture, on food security, on health primarily, on water, sanitation, hygiene, renewable energy, a whole host of areas where USAID monies have come in through various NGOs. Now, it also claims that a substantial amount of money was allocated to the Sustainable Forests and Climate Adaptation Program, as well as the Energy Efficiency, Technology and Commercialization Project. The report further said that since its inception in 1951, USAID has provided over $17 billion in economic assistance to India over the last 50 plus years. And it says, that same report says, that in that period from 1951 to 2023-24, more than 550 projects across various sectors have been funded or supported by USAID. But this has become a huge talking point. The $21 million that allegedly DOGE found was being diverted from the United States to India for quote-unquote voter turnout. And then Donald Trump, the US president, picked this up and made this into an issue. He repeated this over 4 days in 4 different speeches and said, why are we giving $21 million to India? But the moot point is, no one quite knows where this money went and who the beneficiaries, if at all, there were in India of this $21 million. But let's listen in to what Mr. Trump had to say.
What do we need to spend $21 million for voter turnout in India? Wow, $21 million. I guess they were trying to get somebody else elected.
I wonder what they think when they get it. Now, it's a kickback scheme. You know, it's not like they get it and they spend. They kick it back to the people that send it, I would say, in many cases.
Well, why are we giving $21 million to India? They got a lot of money. They're one of the highest taxing countries in the world. We're giving $21 million for voter turnout. It's voter turnout in India.
We're giving money to India for elections. They don't need money. They take advantage of us.
All right, let's go straight across to Tuin Sinha, national spokesperson of the BJP, and Bhavya Narasimhamurthy, spokesperson of the Congress, joining us. Tuin, the moot point is that this finance ministry report seems to indicate that over the last 10 years, 7 projects worth $750 million were undertaken by the USAID, and in financial year 23-24, almost $100 million obligation from USAID that flowed into India. The question that the Congress is asking is, why didn't you stop this money? Why are you only focused on a narrow 21 million, which Mr. Trump has been talking about, but no one knows where this 21 million went?
Well, good evening, Zakka. Good evening, everybody. You know, the problem with the Congress party and Jairam Ramesh is that they think that, the Indian voters' IQ is as challenged as that of Rahul Gandhi. The funding that he's talking about is very specifically government-to-government partnerships, which are executed as externally aided projects, which, like you mentioned in your opening remarks, have been going on from 1951. And they have come down drastically from 2015 onwards. In fact, even those which exist right now trace their origins back to 2010-11. What is the bone of contention over here is not these, very transparent projects. It is the money, the covert money received through CESS, Consortium for Elections and Political Process Strengthening, a very clearly a Soros-backed organization for increasing voter turnout, which by default would have meant inflicting regime change. There are very simple questions for Rahul Gandhi in the last 2 years. Why did he very pointedly start going to the US, pleading with them to help them restore democracy in the country? Why was he championing BRI, China's BRI, 1 day prior to the announcement of the India, Middle East, European corridors? All of a sudden, after 2019, why did he break up the caste issue? Obviously, these were sponsored agendas, sponsored narratives, and that is what the Congress party needs to explain instead of confusing them with government-to-government transparent projects which have existed for the last 7 decades.
So let me ask Bhavya Narasimhamurthy this, that the BJP's contention is also that post-2015, the amount of government-to-government funding has come down, that in the 10-year period between 2004 and 2014, the amount of money that came from USAID to government functions or government programs was in excess of 200 million, whereas under Mr. Modi's government, that is less than 15 million. Now, the point is that there is no law that bars NGOs from getting funding. If anybody, violates FCRA norms, then yes, the funding of that NGO is cancelled. But the moot point is that there is no more monies coming to government as it used to happen in the UPA's period. And the second point that Tuin Sinha was making is this $21 million was given to SEPS, and then SEPS subsequently gave it to some NGOs or agencies here in India, which then were used to manipulate voter turnout. Please respond on both points, Bhavya.
First of all, we Congress people do not have a culture of name calling and calling other people as less smarter than themselves, thinking they're very smart. Although I would like to give some facts to show the smartness also the chronology that is going to prove how fake this BJP ecosystem is. From 2001 to 2024, India has received $2.9 billion in USAID. And for 2014 to 24, it has received $1.2 billion, which is 44% only in Modi government. All right? Secondly, this $21 million that BJP ecosystem has been using to create a fake narrative against Congress, according to them, it was sent in 2012. Sorry, according to the tweet by Elon Musk. But who got elected in 2013 again? Wasn't it Narendra Modi? And if you heard what Trump was speaking, he just said, maybe they were trying to get someone else elected. These were the exact words he used. So was that $21 million given to BJP government? Because the first lot of it, which came, was on 1st October 2012, when this Anna Hazare's movement started and AAP started to start its own party and all of this. And Narendra Modi was appointed as the prime minister candidate. So who was this 21 million actually helping? Isn't it common sense? Just to call other people as, not being smart or dumb is easy. But show some sense, have some common sense to even analyze your own narrative.
But Bhavya, the 2012 MOU that was signed between SEPS, in fact, a subsidiary of SEPS called IFES, and the Election Commission of India, Mr. Qureshi, who was the Chief Election Commissioner at that time, has said, and he's put out the MOU out there in the public domain, there is no monetary transaction.
That's exactly what we are saying. Even the fact checkers have said that. I am only talking about the fake narrative that BJP has created and giving it back to them.
Okay.
Showing them a mirror.
So,
because if they have any ounce of transparency in front of people, let them create a white paper on what all has come since
will
Modi
you create
came to
a
power
white paper?
Yes.
This 21 million, Mr. Trump says, Mr. Musk says, went to India for quote-unquote voter turnout. They are not going to say who in India were the beneficiaries of this. That is up to the government of India to put that out in the public domain. Will you do so?
We are determined to get to the bottom of it. But I'm glad you pointed out, you fact-checked the Congress spokesperson, because, these funds were not received in 2012. In 2012, there was an MOU between a subsidiary of SEPS and the Election Commission for a certain project, which the Election Commission, the then Election Commissioner, has very categorically said was a non-monetary, arrangement. Now, this money, in all likelihood, has been sent across in the last 2 to 3 years, and that corresponds with the change of behavior in the Congress party. Now, what the Congress party does not understand is that there are vast funds which have been received from USAID, which are accounted for. This 21 million is unaccounted for. It is a covert funding. It is a funding which needs to be traced. And, like I said,
exactly. Why was it funded? What was the result of it?
Please don't bargain. The first needle of suspicion would point towards people who are behaving in a certain deviant manner in the last 2 or 3 years, corresponding with the code word, which is increasing election voter turnout, which was never the case in India. India has a robust 67-68% voter turnout. Obviously, the intent was to influence the outcome of these elections, which they tried very hard, but where they did not succeed.
Like I said, the onus on showing who were the beneficiaries of that money, if at all that money came to India, the onus of that has to be on the government. Let's see if the government reveals that data. I want to now move on to the second face-off that we are having here on the show. And this, of course, has to do with the Hindi imposition debate, which is happening in Tamil Nadu. It's been reignited after the Union Education Minister, Mr. Pradhan, said that the Samagra Shiksha funds will not be released to the state of Tamil Nadu unless it approves and aligns the National Education Policy 2, which was released by the Modi government, which all states have given their assent to except the state of Tamil Nadu. The condition that's been put forth by the centre is being seen as an attempt to arm twist, with the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu saying that they will not bow down to blackmail. In fact, Mr. Stalin has said that even if the centre gives 10,000 crores to the state, they will not approve the three-language formula, which is part of the national education policy. It's now gone beyond just being a war of words. DMK workers and few pro-Tamil activists blackened Hindi signboards at a couple of railway stations in Pollachi and in Tirunelveli. Ever since the NEP was introduced back in 2020, Tamil Nadu has resisted it as a threat to its autonomy, to its identity, and to its linguistic history and pride. But the opposition has intensified after the DMK came to power in 2021 and declared that it would formulate its own state education policy and rejected the national education policy.
There is absolute unanimity in Tamil Nadu in rejecting the new educational policy of the BJP central government. Tamil Nadu cannot be held at ransom and be forced to implement a three-language policy in state government schools and say that central funds will only be allotted to Tamil Nadu, which is their right, will be denied the funds from the central government because we don't want to implement a three-language policy.
You say NEP insists on a three-language formula. All private schools have got a three-language formula, including your family school, Sunshine School, which is run by your family. You have a lot of currency notes in your house. There is Hindi in that. Wipe that off with tar. Why there is a Hindi name in Karunanidhi's commemorative coin? You remove that if you have guts.
The opposition to the national education policy more political than anything else. Now, the Dravidian parties, particularly the DMK, claim that it imposes Hindi on students and that is something that they will not stand for. But the national education policy does not mandate that Hindi has to be the third language. What they have is a three-language policy. It only mandates two native Indian languages, so local language plus another native Indian language. The DMK government claims that the NEP infringes on the state's autonomy on education. Education, of course, is in the concurrent list, but the fact is that the policy allows states to customize the implementation based on their unique needs. Now, the three-language policy is also seen as a burden on school kids, particularly kids who go to government schools. The DMK says that they want to stick to the two-language policy, but the centre maintains that all states, in fact, a large majority of the states, have already adopted the NEP or adopted a version of the NEP, but no state other than Tamil Nadu is insisting that they will only have a two-language policy and not a three-language policy. Now, let's take a quick look at where this three-language policy comes from. This was first proposed all the way back in 1948-49 by the University Education Commission. Now, the rationale or the logic of the University Education Commission was that studying multiple languages was common in multilingual countries like Belgium and Switzerland. In fact, it was good for kids to study three languages. It envisioned that Hindi will eventually replace English as the primary language for communication. Now, the Education Commission of 1964 to 1966 further refined this concept of a three-language formula. It recommended a modified three-language formula. And then the Indian Parliament adopted the three-language formula in 1968. The policy stipulated that students in Hindi-speaking states should learn Hindi, English, and one modern Indian language, preferably a language from southern India. And students in non-Hindi speaking states would study Hindi, English, and any of the regional languages, including the regional language that is spoken in that state. Now, Tamil Nadu has had a long history of opposing Hindi opposition, with there were significant protests first in 1937 and then subsequently in 1965 when this new national education policy was first mooted. Tamil Nadu has never implemented the three-language formula since the inception of the three-language formula in 1968. In fact, it is the only state in India right now which has not implemented the three-language formula and has only a two-language formula. So let's open this up to our debate tonight. Vinod P. Selvam, leader of the Tamil Nadu BJP, is joining us, and A. Saravanan, spokesperson of the DMK, is joining us. Saravanan, NEP or the three-language formula is not a 2020 phenomenon. It's not invented or introduced by the Modi government. It's been there since 1968. It's been adopted by the Parliament of India. Why should only Tamil Nadu be the one state in the country that's not adopted the three-language formula and has a two-language formula? Why?
Yeah, why? Because we are a pluralistic state. One glove fits all is not going to work. A straitjacket formula cannot be applied for a pluralistic state. And you are talking about the 1968. resolution adopted in the parliament. In 1968, the Tamil Nadu State Assembly adopted a resolution and said we'll have only 2 languages, and it was accepted by the parliament, and Madam Indira Gandhi made necessary amendments, and in the 1975 official language rules which mandated how Hindi will be used within the states, communication within the states and all that, they exempted the state of Tamil Nadu in 1976. This is so from 1968, Tamil Nadu has not suffered the ignominy of a 3rd language. Why should we suffer it now? It is useless. It is totally unwanted. The 3rd language is totally unwanted.
But Saranan,
we were able to.
So tell me, in Karnataka they have Kannada plus Hindi plus English. In Telangana they have Telugu plus English plus Hindi. Are you saying those states are not pluralistic? Those states are not federal? Those states are not proud of their language?
No, Zakka, you got me wrong. I am saying India is a pluralistic country. So they should allow different voices. You cannot have the same formula. You cannot have the same idea to be implemented across the country. That is what I said. Someone sitting in Delhi cannot decide what the students in Kanyakumari should study. It is totally anathema. It is anathema to our diversity. So that is why we are opposing it. And
let's ask Vinod Selvam of the BJP. This is the contention by the DMK. In fact, almost all political parties in Tamil Nadu, whether they are in ruling side or in the opposition side, are all opposed to 3-language formula. Only BJP is welcoming 3-language formula. Mr. Saravanan says this is anti-plural, anti-federal.
If Delhi cannot decide what the students can study or not study, who is DMK to decide what the students should be studying? The 3-language formula is being implemented as the world is shrinking. We don't live in 1968, we don't live in 1975 anymore. We have progressed a long way. And as Mr. Saravanan says, we live in a very pluralistic society, and what's wrong in the students being able to learn 3 languages? And it's not like the schools being run in Tamil Nadu do not have 3 languages. We have multiple schools, and most schools which are all having central board as their curriculum, which are all run by these leaders of DMK who are opposing them. All the leaders of DMK who are opposing the 3-language formula run CBSE schools. None of them run state matriculation syllabus. They all run CBSE schools because they want to collect a higher fees. In that sense, when they can teach 3 languages to the students there, why can't the poor students of Tamil Nadu also have the access to the same education is the question here. That is what the BJP is fighting for. The BJP does not want to go with the opinion of opposition parties or ruling parties. The BJP has its own view. The BJP is concerned about the students of the state, and because of the very low standard of education which is being given by the DMK, our students, our children are unable to face competitive exams. Our students are scared of NEET because of the low standards of education being provided by the state government. So at least now correct your mistakes. There's nothing wrong in doing mistakes. But when you do mistakes, learn to correct them. The central government is giving you a chance to redeem yourself. Join the new education policy. Let the students have exposure to more languages. The world is shrinking. It's becoming a smaller place. Our students are traveling to various cities to work in. They're going to various countries to work in. And what is this whole Hindi agitation which you're trying to take up? This is a 3-language formula. It is not a Hindi imposition. It is a 3-language formula where the students have the right to choose what language they want to learn. Why are you confusing the students? Why are you confusing the people of Tamil Nadu?
So Saravanan, respond to that. The 3-language formula does not mandate that one of the 3 languages has to be Hindi. It in fact says 2 native Indian languages. So you can choose which are the 2 native Indian languages.
Absolutely. Everything looks good on paper, Zakka, but what happens in actuality? What happens is they are spending around 80 crores every year to appoint Hindi teachers across the country to develop the Hindi language. That is the money that is spent every year. What is the money spent for the development of other languages? 0. And when you say you are going to be having a 3rd language, you can study any other subject, there won't be teachers for Malayalam, Kannada, Bengali, Oriya, Rajasthani, Awadhi, Maithili. There won't be any teachers at all because the government has not spent any money. This is how they cheat people. This is how the BJP is trying to impose Hindi.
No, also the point that Mr. Selvam made that your leaders run CBSE schools where there is 3-language formula.
When has the BJP spoken the truth? BJP is known for peddling fake news. That is fake news. See, if we request If you are saying our leaders are running CBSE schools, saying please take the 3-language formula from CBSE schools also, it will benefit the entire country. And since when is the BJP worried about the poor people? We are seeing what is happening in Prayagraj. We are seeing what is happening in every railway station. They are not even able to run trains for the poor people. Now they are studying crocodile tears.
Mr. Vinod, if you really feel that the students of Tamil Nadu are ready and willing to learn 3-language formula, why don't you take this issue to the streets? Let's see what the students say.
Firstly, it is funny that the DMK is talking about lies. Can he rebut or can he reject or can we say that the leader of the DMK, the chief minister's own daughter, runs a school, and can he say that Hindi is not being taught in that school? Can Mr. Saravanan deny that? Will he come on record and say is there a 3-language or not? Why are you running a CBSE school? Don't run a CBSE school. Run a matriculation school.
Can you answer how much
Teach Samachir Kalvi introduced by DMK. Why are you running a central board school? Because you want more money. You want more fees. That is your point, and that is why you are doing it. Why are you not doing that? And you spoke about, wait a minute, this is my turn to speak. It's my turn to speak. Saravanan, don't get agitated, sir, don't get agitated. Okay, don't get agitated. Let me ask you a very simple question. You are worried about...
Please allow him to speak, please. Please, Saravanan, come on. Let's have a civilized debate, please.
You are worried about...
Thank you. Thank you.
The answer is zero.
Yeah, you were worried about not having enough money to find teachers. Just cut down on the corruption you make in buying eggs every day for the noon meal scheme, the corruption you buy in the ration, the corruption you make in the free uniforms given to the students. If you cut down on the corruption you make in these things, you'll have enough money to appoint as many teachers as you want. Correct yourself, correct your mistakes, and make sure the students get what they deserve. Do not divert the topic. Why are you going and painting all the stations and all the central government buildings black on Hindi? The Hindi has been there for years. Why are you doing it now? This is clearly diversional politics. You want to play a Hindi card because you know you're losing.
Mr. Vinod Selvam and Mr. Saravanan, I have to leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see how this story plays out in Tamil Nadu and in other states. But I want to shift focus now to Telangana, where a part of the world's largest irrigation tunnel in Srisailam at the left bank canal collapsed on Friday. 8 workers have been trapped inside since then. The disaster struck during a routine check when there was a sudden gush of water and there was muck that was mixed with the water, and it came at such great intensity that just by the sheer force it left the workers running for their lives. 8 people who were close to the point where this gaping hole occurred, they just couldn't rush out in time because the force of the water was so much. A mammoth rescue operation has been started since then. More than 300 trained disaster management personnel have been on the ground for the last 48 hours. However, given the gravity of the waterlogging and the seepage that has restricted the rescuers from moving forward, and also the fact that it's been 72 hours plus since this accident happened, it looks like they're really racing against time in a bid to try and save these 8 workers who've been trapped inside. So this particular tunnel, this entire stretch of this tunnel runs for about 44 kilometers. It starts from Srisailam to Devarakonda and is located behind the Srisailam Dam, which is one of the biggest dams in the state of Telangana. The collapse happened about 13 kilometers inside from the mouth of the tunnel. Now, the upper section of the tunnel, it collapsed with such huge force that the debris around has left those who've been trapped with just a 5 to 10 meter space around. So about 8 people are stuck within a 5 to 10 meter radius. The tunnel is 400 meters below the Amrabad Tiger Reserve. Therefore, that makes drilling and the ability to reach and cut through to these people and save their lives, that is particularly difficult. It's almost a near impossible task. And to add to all of these woes, there is waterlogging along a 2-kilometer stretch from the site of the collapse up until where these workers have been trapped. That is also hampering the rescue operations. The rescuers have reached what we are being told is the final 100-meter stretch, and the dewatering process is underway in that final 100-meter stretch to try and clear the path forward. Once they reach those 8 workers who have been trapped inside, then of course we will be in a position to know if they are still alive and well or whether some of them have succumbed in these last 72 hours. But the rescue teams are leaving no stone unturned, with the rescue of workers being the primary focus. Dewatering is now being conducted in that final 100-meter stretch at the collapsed tunnel around the Srisailam Dam project. Meanwhile, the Indian Army, there is the National Disaster Relief Force, there is the State Disaster Relief Force. There are over 100 personnel from different agencies who are trying to cut through the rubble, trying to cut through the gush of water. Additional equipment has been brought for their service. Arrangements have also been made to ensure uninterrupted supply of oxygen to those who are trapped inside. While the details of where the fault lines lie are yet to be ascertained, rat hole miners who are in fact part of the Silkiara Tunnel rescue operation that happened a couple of years ago, they too, this was in Uttarakhand 2 years ago, the rescued 41 workers who were confined there for 17 days. Eventually it was the rat hole miners who cut through the last few 100-meter stretch and rescued those 41 workers. Those same rat hole miners have also joined the operation in Srisailam in Telangana. More than 300 trained personnel, including 120 from the NDRF, 120 from the SDRF, and 20 odd from the Singareni collieries and 24 from the Indian Army are all on the ground to try and get through to those workers who've been trapped. Meanwhile, Chief Minister Revanth Reddy is constantly reviewing the situation. He's been monitoring the rescue operations. He's spoken with the Prime Minister as well a couple of days ago. Senior officials and rescue teams are constantly monitoring the situation on the ground in Srisailam. With the rescue operation set to enter day 4 tomorrow, the entire nation is praying for the safety and timely evacuation of those who are trapped inside the tunnel.
पूरा सारी एनडीआरएफ एसडीआरएफ सिंगरेनी का पूरा तक से वो लोगों को बचाने के वास्ते कोशिश कर रहे। मैं भी यही प्रार्थना करता हूँ भगवान से वो 8 लोग सेफली निकल जाए, सेफली बाहर आ जाए।
Unfortunately, 8 employees, technical and non-technical staff, still are trapped in the particular area. Though authorities are saying that they have ensured the proper oxygen supply and all that.
BJP ministers, they were prompt to inform the NDRF and also other central agencies to come for rescue operations.
Now, in a significant development that has brought back memories, horrific ones, that of COVID-19, the pandemic back from 2020, now China's Wuhan Institute of Virology has identified a new coronavirus in bats which can enter human cells through the same pathway as the virus that causes COVID-19. And that, of course, has sparked off huge concerns again of yet another pandemic. Remember, the Wuhan Institute of Virology was the first institute in the world to identify that this was a SARS pandemic, and it was in Wuhan at the wet market there where the first cases of COVID-19 were detected. Now, while this particular virus has not been detected in humans yet and has only been identified in a laboratory, it has sure triggered fears because it was these same bats that were suspected to be the first carriers from fruit and vegetables into animals and then eventually to human beings. Here's all you need to know about this new virus and whether or not you should be worried about this new strain of coronavirus that has been detected by the same Institute of Virology in the same place which was the epicenter of COVID-19.
Is another pandemic looming? What do we know about the new bat virus HKU5CoV2? Chinese researchers have identified a new bat coronavirus HKU5CoV2 which can potentially transmit from animals to humans. The discovery in this peer-reviewed study has reignited concerns about the possibility of another pandemic similar to COVID-19 globally. However, Indian experts told News18 that while there is no immediate threat, the new virus requires monitoring. The study published in the medical journal Cell reveals a distinct lineage of HKU5-CoV in bats that efficiently use human ACE2 and underscores their potential zoonotic risk. The study has been done by a team of researchers led by Zhengli Shi, who is a very popular virologist known as Batwoman. She played a key role in tracking the origins of outbreaks like severe acute respiratory syndrome or SARS in 2003, Middle East respiratory syndrome or MERS in 2012, and most recently coronavirus. The study said a distinct HKU5 coronavirus lineage is discovered in bats. However, no such case has been reported in humans yet.
All right, we'll keep an eye out on that space. But the other big story from Europe, Germany now has a new ruling coalition and a new chancellor. Friedrich Merz, who is the leader of the conservative Christian Democrats, will be the new chancellor of Germany for the next 5 years. He, of course, belongs to the same party as that of Angela Merkel, but he inherits a very, very difficult country and a very difficult time in Europe in general. Donald Trump, the US president, he's in a hurry to try and get a Ukraine peace deal going. He prefers to directly deal with Russia, keep the Ukrainians and the Europeans out of the room, to which Mr. Merz, the first thing he said after his election victory was his first priority would be, quote unquote, true independence from America. This is coming at a time when European leaders, including the likes of French President Emmanuel Macron, have been urging fellow European leaders to step up their spending on their own collective defense and to continue to aid Ukraine militarily and through non-military means to continue fighting Russia, even if Donald Trump is in no mood to continue extending funding to Ukraine and is in a hurry to find a peace deal with Vladimir Putin. Here's why the newly elected German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and Donald Trump, the US president, are possibly set on a collision course. The recently concluded German election has marked a significant shift in the country's political landscape. Friedrich Merz and his Christian Democratic Union, the CDU, and its Bavarian sister party, the Christian Social Union, CSU, have both emerged victorious. This conservative victory comes after a 3-year hiatus from power. Merz is now poised to become the next Chancellor of Germany. The election results also highlight the rise of the far-right Alternative for Germany, or AfD party, which achieved its best ever performance, securing more than 20% of the vote. In fact, AfD has become the second largest party in the Bundestag. But what are going to be the new Chancellor Merz and his priorities? What is his stand on the Ukraine peace plan? What are his views on European independence from American foreign policy? And what may be the implications of the success of the far-right AfD? Friedrich Merz's CDU-CSU alliance won the election with a voter share of more than 28.5%. That would roughly translate to a little over 200 seats in the Bundestag. However, this is short of the 316 seats that is required to form a government alone, which means Merz will have to find a coalition partner. The most likely coalition partner is the Social Democratic Party, the outgoing party of Chancellor Olaf Scholz, which secured 16.4% or about 120 odd seats. Together, the Christian Democrats and the Social Democrats would have a comfortable majority of over 320 seats. This is how Angela Merkel, one of the most successful German chancellors, ran her coalition for a large part of the 16 years that she was in power. The new Chancellor, Mr. Merz's top priorities are likely to include economic recovery, immigration reform, and enhancing Germany's international presence. He has emphasized the need for a strong economy. He's been critical of the previous government's handling of economic issues. Additionally, the incoming Chancellor Merz has also signaled a desire to reassert German influence on the global stage, particularly when it comes to the rest of Europe. Merz has been vocal about the need for Ukraine to win the war against Russia and restore its original territorial integrity. He's pledged continued support for Ukraine and emphasized the importance of involving Europe in the negotiations to end the conflict. His stand aligns with a broader European sentiment, but it is in direct contrast with US President Donald Trump's approach, which is hinted at being much more conciliatory towards Russia, having talks separately with the Russians without either the Ukrainians or the rest of the Europeans as part of that room. Merz, on the other hand, insists that Europeans have to be in the room when these peace talks happen, because it reflects a broader desire to assert European autonomy when it comes to how to end the Ukraine war. This could potentially put him at odds with Donald Trump, who's expressed a desire to end the Russia-Ukraine war quickly, and he favors direct negotiations with the Russians as opposed to bringing the Ukrainians or the other Europeans into the negotiations. Germany so far has committed to or delivered military assistance worth approximately 28 billion euros to Ukraine. This includes both lethal and non-lethal military equipment, the Leopard 2 battle tanks, the Gepard anti-aircraft tanks, the Marder combat vehicles, and the Patriot and Iris-T air defense systems. Additionally, Germany has also provided military training to over 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers. In the aftermath of the election, the new Chancellor Merz has called for Europe to become more independent from the United States, particularly when it comes to defense matters. He was speaking, of course, metaphorically. This is partly in response to US President Donald Trump's statements, which have raised a huge amount of concern about America's commitment to European security, about America's commitment to the war in Ukraine. Merz has suggested that Europe should enhance its defense capabilities. It should potentially even establish a European nuclear umbrella. Right now, Europe's security guarantees, its almost nuclear umbrella, is guarded and kept through promises through the Transatlantic Alliance or NATO, where America is the underwriter, in a sense, of Europe's security. But this shift towards greater European autonomy could lead to tensions with the United States. Merz's government intends to pursue policies that are divergent from the traditional Transatlantic Alliance, a divergence that's been brought about by Trump himself. However, it also reflects a broader European desire for self-reliance in the face of the global uncertainty that's been unleashed after Trump's election. Last week at the Munich Security Conference, US Vice President J.D. Vance received a lot of flack from Germans and the Europeans who had gathered there that the time for free lunches in the Transatlantic Alliance were over. There is a growing feeling that NATO is going to split up, with America on the one side and its European partners on the other. Vance even met with Alice Weidel, who's the leader of the far-right AfD party, which has now become number 2 in the incoming German parliament. Vance had also condemned what was a German mainstream consensus about not wanting to ally or not wanting to legitimize the AfD. Vance said there are no pariahs in politics. Merz's stand on European independence and his support for Ukraine could put him on a collision course with Trump. Trump has indicated a desire to reduce American military presence in Europe. He is skeptical about NATO and its relevance. He's very harsh on Europe not paying up more for its own security. Merz, on the other hand, sees NATO as crucial, but he believes that Europe must take responsibility for its own defense. This is similar to the idea that was floated by French President Emmanuel Macron some months ago about Europe raising its own European army. The potential for conflict between Trump's views and Merz's views, particularly when it comes to the threat that emanates from Russia and the threat that is very much well and alive through the Ukraine war, that definitely puts the incoming German Chancellor and his ideas on a collision course with the US President. Merz's rhetoric during the elections also suggests a deepening rift between traditional allies, America and its European partners, and this could have profound global implications. But that is not his only worry. The main opposition in the new German Bundestag will be the Alternative for Germany, or the AfD party. It's achieved its best ever result in any election, securing 1 in 5 of German voters. This marks a significant shift in German politics. The AfD has now become the second largest party. The AfD's success is notable for breaking the unspoken consensus in German politics against mainstreaming far-right ideologies, those ideologies which have historical associations with Nazism and fascism. The AfD has been criticized in the past for its stand on immigration. It has got perceived links to extremist ideologies, all of which it has tried to soften in the months leading up to the election. Despite these controversies, the AfD has managed to capitalize on voter dissatisfaction with the mainstream parties, particularly when it comes to immigration and the high cost of living. Friedrich Merz's election as the next Chancellor of Germany marks a significant moment in European politics. His priorities will focus on economic recovery, immigration reform, and enhancing Germany's international presence. The coalition between the Christian Democrats, their partners, the CSU, and a likely coalition with the SPD could provide for a stable government, but Merz's stand on Europe and its independence and its autonomy when it comes to matters regarding Ukraine, that could lead to very deep tensions with the United States. Also domestically, he will now have to confront with a new political enemy, which is the AfD, and its success has represented a seismic shift in German politics. The rise of AfD challenges the long-standing consensus against mainstreaming far-right ideologies. This development underscores the complexities and the challenges facing European democracies as they navigate issues of identity, security, and economic stability. As Merz is now at the helm to lead Germany for the next 5 years as it navigates these challenges, his ability to balance European autonomy on the one hand, along with cordial transatlantic relations, that is going to be a huge challenge. The coming months will reveal whether his vision for a more independent Europe can be reconciled with the interests of other global partners, particularly the United States. It seems like Trump and his European partners are on an inevitable collision course. Back in the Oval Office for his second term, US President Donald Trump has been spitting fire, especially on trade relationships where he feels America is being ripped off. He has threatened and put on a temporary pause tariffs on Canada and Mexico. He's also imposed 10% tariffs on China and a flat 25% on all steel and aluminum imports into the US. And to top it all, he's announced reciprocal tariffs starting the 1st of April on every single trading partner of America. But vis-a-vis China, while all the headlines are fire and brimstone, insiders say that President Trump is also eyeing the possibility of a new trade deal with China. Although there would be significant hurdles to reaching any agreement, the US president would like to strike a wide-ranging deal with his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping. Trump wants this deal to go beyond just reworking the trading relationship. He's expressed interest in a deal that would include substantial investments and commitments from the Chinese to buy more American products. It is similar to a limited deal that Trump struck with the Chinese in 2020, but ultimately that deal failed because of China's failure to buy an additional $200 billion of goods and services under that agreement. Trump would like an agreement to also include issues like nuclear weapons security, which he wants to directly negotiate with Xi Jinping. Trump is already following a familiar playbook of tariffs as well as other threats as he looks to renegotiate a deal with China. On the 1st of February, he hit Beijing with a 10% tariff on all Chinese imports. He in fact called it an opening salvo, quickly resulting in retaliation from the Chinese. He has now floated the idea of revoking permanent normal trading ties between China and the United States. This is similar to the most favored nation status that countries extend to each other under the framework of the WTO. The normal trading relationship or this trading arrangement between the US and China extends to more than 20 years ago. China is one of America's biggest trading partners, but also one of America's biggest national security threats. It is also a pivotal actor on the world stage when it comes to nuclear security, pandemic preparedness, cutting-edge critical technologies. Whether the United States and China attain closer ties or whether they spiral into conflict may come down largely to the mercurial temptations and temperaments of both Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. The US president has reportedly told some of his closest advisors just a few months ago that he wants to make a deal with Xi Jinping which would be beneficial for both sides. The Trump team has been discussing issues like who would take charge of the talks, what elements of the 2020 trade deal have the Chinese failed to honor, and how best to bring China back to the negotiating table. Trump's advisors say that both governments would have to overcome many obstacles if they have to eventually reach a deal, and that the Trump administration has not yet determined what it exactly wants from China. The two sides have also been floating proposals, either to bring Xi Jinping to Mar-a-Lago, much like it happened in Trump's first term, or in fact fly Trump to Beijing, again like it happened in the Trump first term, but no official visit is planned currently between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump. Howard Lutnick, who's Trump's Commerce Secretary, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, along with billionaire Elon Musk, have been encouraging Trump to cut a deal with China. They are telling the president that he is in a position to strike a significant agreement with Beijing. The president and his advisors blame the Chinese for not keeping the terms of the 2020 agreement, as well as, of course, the Biden administration for failing to enforce it. Throughout Trump's first term, he held trade talks with the Chinese, and ultimately he ended up imposing tariffs on more than $300 billion of Chinese products. This was an effort to try and force the Chinese to get into an agreement, but the Chinese could not fulfill their end of the bargain. But even after Trump left office, Biden kept up much of the tariffs against China, but it did not get China to fall in line. In their 2020 pact, Chinese officials had pledged to open certain markets for foreign companies, better protect technology secrets, as well as buy American agricultural produce and American energy. But they never came close to meeting the purchasing targets, which was in excess of $200 billion. At that time, Beijing said it was because of the COVID pandemic. In an executive order signed on his very first day, Trump ordered his advisors to review China's compliance with that deal and decide whether or not to impose tariffs by 1st of April. Some American analysts have said that recent weaknesses in the Chinese economy might make Xi Jinping more willing and more open to striking a deal. Weakness in the property market has forced Beijing to lean even more heavily on its exports. China is currently flooding the world with cars, solar panels, electric batteries, and it's basically putting factories in other countries out of business. That would be a problem for America. Chinese officials seem to view Trump pretty warily, expecting relations to be contentious in the near future. They are aware that Trump is not afraid of imposing stiff tariffs as well as other penalties, but they're also eager to want to work with Trump. They know that Trump wants to rearrange trading relations, particularly between the world's top two trading nations, and if they were to offer him that possibility, that could bring him to the negotiating table. Some Chinese analysts also feel that Trump will ultimately feel compelled to make good on the promises that he made to voters to promote economic growth and particularly promote job growth through exports. This, of course, would enthuse his MAGA base. It'll play well in the Rust Belt in the Midwest of the United States, from where Trump derives a large amount of his support. One Chinese offer could include investments in America that would create an estimated 500,000 jobs in industries like solar, electric vehicles, batteries. Chinese companies are also willing to discuss taking minority stakes in joint ventures or even simply licensing their technology to American partners. The proposal could also include substantial Chinese purchase of American exports, as well as cooperation on maintaining peace with North Korea and ultimately nudging the Russians to rebuild Ukraine. It may also include promises to maintain the superiority of the dollar as the preeminent global currency, something that is a top priority for Donald Trump.
जिन्होंने यूज किया
Maria Santissima, premurosa e tenera nel soccorrere i suoi figli che si trovano nel dolore, lo sostenga in questo momento di prova e di sofferenza. La parola di Dio e la preghiera raccoglieranno ed esprimeranno tutte le nostre parole e le esprimono con pienezza. Ci aiuteranno a sentirci in comunione tra noi, con il Santo Padre, con tutta la Chiesa, in particolare con le chiese in Italia, che in questi giorni prossimi si ritroveranno in tanti modi sempre nella dolce compagnia di Maria per intercedere per la guarigione del Papa. Sappiamo anche quanti si uniscono a noi, tanti nella amicizia hanno affidato a noi la preghiera. Quanti attestati di riconoscenza e di stima che presentiamo tutti al Signore perché doni protezione e renda forte nella fede il Papa Francesco. Preghiamo. O Dio, che in Maria, madre del tuo Figlio, hai posto il segno della nostra difesa e del nostro aiuto, concedi a Papa Francesco di godere la salute del corpo e dello spirito, perché continui ad essere per la Chiesa testimone del tuo Vangelo di misericordia, a presiederla nella comunione.
Ricolma di grazia la tua Chiesa.
Ascoltaci, Signore.
Dona salute a Papa Francesco.
Ascoltaci, Signore.
Estendi il dono della pace a tutti i popoli.
Ascoltaci, Signore.
Rendi tutti i defunti partecipi della Pasqua eterna.
Ah, e poi dopo fra un po' lo... Ah.
Perdão dos nossos pecados, pelos do mundo inteiro, pela sua dolorosa paixão, tende misericórdia de nós e do mundo inteiro. Deus Santo, Deus Forte, Deus Imortal.
Hoy también nosotros pedimos por el Papa Francisco. Sabemos que si bien la situación de su salud es crítica, no es fatal. Sabemos que su salud, como toda salud de una persona mayor, y aún también en ciertos casos de cualquiera, necesita siempre el cuidado que ofrece la medicina. Acompañar y la resurrección de tu Hijo te presente, que nos hace dignos de servir en tu presencia.
Apenada porque cualquier situación que le pase a él es como que le pasa a uno en el interior del corazón también cuando uno es una persona de fe. Espero que Dios lo acompañe y la Virgen lo cuide y más que nada que no sufra, ¿no? Y que sea lo que Dios quiera, porque él no se merece sufrir.
Para mí es un ídolo, porque personas que transmiten tanto bien, tanta bondad y tanto amor por los demás.
Viewers, the final Snan at the Kumbh Mela may be scheduled for the Shivratri day, but that hasn't stopped a certain ecosystem from continuing its broadside. Now the record rush at the Kumbh is being linked to, believe it or not, growing Hindu fundamentalism. It's as if, in the words of some of these people, viewers, this ecosystem, Hindus have suddenly become doubly devout, doubly pious, or viewers, doubly overtly religious. The so-called defenders of secularism in this country are very worried that the record turnout at the Kumbh is a sure sign that the inclusive faith is turning into a straight-jacketed version of itself that is performative and discriminatory like other Abrahamic or book-based religions. This is the theory, viewers. This is the latest theory. And this latest theory only adds to the other uncharitable remarks about the Mahakumbh we've been hearing over the last 42 days. Let me acquaint you with some of those remarks. First, of course, what is being said about this turnout. Rush at Mahakumbh shows how Hinduism is losing its pluralistic character. Hinduism is moving towards a more codified, performative and mandatory form. This was, viewers, expressed by Savita Jha, professor of the Delhi University, formerly was with the JNU. Then, viewers, another politician, Akhilesh Yadav, comes out and says the trust of all the devotees who came to Kumbh increased when the Chief Minister said that we had made preparations for the arrival of 100 crore people for Mahakumbh. When people saw that big, rich and renowned people were being invited, their trust increased. The biggest lie is that it is happening after 144 years. In other words, Akhilesh Yadav is questioning Hindu beliefs that this Mahakumbh is happening because of a star alignment that takes place 100 at a gap of 100 interval of 144 years. This is his problem, viewers. One of his cousins, Shivpal Yadav, was an MLA. He's come out and said government's money has been misused for PR. Such a government should resign. There is no